Hello? Hello?
Hello. Yes, sir.
No. I'm talking to, is it
Yes,
okay?
yeah,
Gita?
we can hear you. Yes, sir.
Okay.
You can go ahead. Yeah, I'll make her co-host.
Yeah. Today's presentation is about food, sleep, and health. Certainly, we are trying to encourage you to eat well, do things well, exercise, entertainment, companionship. All those things are wonderful to make your body physically be healthier, thereby you live longer life. But the most important thing is the brain. The brain health is the paramount to any other part of the body, because if you want to enjoy the extended life, you need a good brain. To have good brain health, you need sleep other than food. But sleep is directly affected by the food that we eat for all of us, in spite of the fact that we all know it is very difficult to get good sleep for various reasons. And one of the most important factors is food. So I have asked Professor Ananta Ghosh to present on this topic, exploring the complex interrelationships among food, sleep, and health. Professor Ananta Ghosh is a professor in Pune Symbiosis University in India. She has presented before. You may have seen her a few times, and she has been doing excellent scientific research and teaching, and therefore she is very well suited to present us the topics in depth as needed for us. With that, I welcome Professor Anindita Ghosh to present on this topic: food, sleep, and health.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for the amount of the things you said about me, and thank you to all the participants here. I can see 43 participants. A very good morning to you. Today I'm going to talk about food, sleep, and health. So now these food and sleep, these are two basic requirements of our life. So now what is food and what is sleep? So food is something which gives us nourishment, and sleep is something which helps in protecting us and gives us relaxation. And thus it has a very intricate relationship with the health. Now, how it impacts the health, we'll see. Now, you have to first know the physiology of nutrition to understand why food is important and how food is impacting the sleep and how sleep is getting impacted by the food. So first is, we all know that we need, or all the organisms, they need food to sustain life. There is something which is called metabolism, where all the bodily functions are being managed by the food. So from foods, we get carbohydrate, protein, fat, vitamins, and minerals. And they are the nutrients which are being metabolized in the body. And when these are metabolized, our body can use it and our health can be maintained. So food is something which gives us fuel, and it helps us in keeping the movement in the body. It helps us in making us healthy. So when we make good food choices, our body feels good because it will be giving us the fuel and nutrient it needs. It will be helping us in exploring the different types of, you know, you can say, food choices, and thus we will be able to, after exploration of the food choices, we will be seeing that we do not have any deficiency. That is why we should be following all the food groups. We should be eating all the food groups. For example, grains, dals, milk, or non-vegetarian foods for people who are non-vegetarians, vegetarian proteins like pulses, vegetables and fruits for vitamins and minerals, and also a little amount of oil and fat and a very reduced amount of sugar and a good amount of hydration that we'll be getting from the water. So these are the different components of the diet. They provide us with nutrition. They help us in keeping our body healthy. Now, how does sleep impact the health? Now, for that, we have to understand that how the sleep is been regulated in our body. Now, how food is regulated, how the body uses nutrition, how the body uses the fuel, we have understood that. Now, how sleep is regulated. So we only feel sleepy during the night, right? So when it is daytime, most of us are active. Why is it so? Because of the different types of chemicals that our brain synthesizes. Whenever there is night, our brain synthesizes something called melatonin that induces the sleep. So melatonin is a very important chemical that is going to help us in sleeping, that provides us with rest, that reduces our activity. Now, in the morning time, this melatonin is stopped. And again, our brain starts secreting serotonin. What does serotonin do? Serotonin gives us proper activity. We start becoming active. We do not feel drowsy. We can focus, we can concentrate, we have energy. So these are actually two different chemicals which are opposite of each other. One gets activated in the night and one is active during the day. So what are the different neurochemicals or neurotransmitters or the different brain regions and how they're associated? I will speak about those. Now, what are the neurochemicals? So these are the neurochemicals, that is the melatonin and serotonin. So this is actually a very complex process. And these neurochemicals or these neurotransmitters, they help in making a balance between the sleep and wake cycle. So whenever you are sleeping, your melatonin is high and your serotonin is low. Whenever you are awake, your serotonin gets high and your melatonin is low. What happens when we just wake up from the sleep? So when we just wake up from the sleep, our body tries to adapt. So what happens is the amount of chemical called the melatonin is going to go down slowly, gradually. And the serotonin tries to get to the optimum level so that we are charged up, we are full of energy. So this is how the body transports itself from a non-active region to an active region, or non-activity space to an active space in the night and the day consecutively. Now, we should be knowing how this sleep architecture work. So if you are going to see the sleep, so it is like a cycle. So we call, in scientific words, we call it as a sleep cycle. So because you wake up, then you go to sleep, again you wake up, then you go to sleep. So it is like a cycle. So there are series of sleep cycles, about 5 for most people. So these cycles are made up of different stages of sleep. which is called non-REM1, non-REM2, non-REM3, and REM sleep. Okay, so what is this REM and what is this non-REM? Okay, so this non-REM sleep, this is the first 3 stages. That is or first 4 stages. That is the N1, N2, N3, and N4. So in these stages, you are just going towards a very good sleep. Okay, the stage 1 is the progression from a light sleep towards moderate. Stage 3 to stage 4 is the deep sleep. Okay, and that REM sleep is when the brain is going towards from the waking phase to the resting phase. So this transition is the REM sleep. Now, why is it called REM and non-REM? Now, it is called REM because at that time, you need energy. So REM is resting energy metabolism and NREM is not non-resting energy metabolism. So again, these sleep cycles, they utilize a lot of energy. So when we are sleeping, at that time, our body does a lot of repairing. By repairing, I mean it controls the different type of, or it converts the different type of damages which has been done already by the environment, by us, by our lifestyles. So all these damages are being mended up, our body has been protected, and thus we are gifted with a good immunity. And these sleep cycle is very much important for that. So when does this take place? So most of the mending work, most of the protection is been done in the NREM sleep. That is the N1, N2, and N3, where we are progressing from a light sleep towards a deep sleep. Now, can you tell me that at what time that NREM sleep start happening? That is after 2 to 3 hours of your sleep. For example, if we are sleeping around 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the night, so by 11 o'clock, our NREM sleep, that is, we will be slowly progressing towards light sleep and we will be progressing towards deep sleep by 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock. And that is why they say that if you are not able to sleep around 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock and you tend to wake up at that time, maybe you have a very disturbed sleep quality. And those people, they actually have a very limited amount of immunity. Now, why is immunity so important? Now, immunity is so important because, again, if you are immune enough, if you are strong enough in protecting your body, then it is going to help you in keeping your body in a proper condition. You will be protecting your body from the different types of hazards present in the environment. May it be virus, may it be bacteria, may it be any kind of environmental factor. So that is why people who sleep better, they have got a better immunity. They can protect their body from all these kind of infections. Not only immunity, the sleeping system or the sleep cycle, if it is proper, we also have a better modulation between hunger and satiation. Now, how is it possible? How can only sleep help in improving our eating pattern? So now there is a signaling. So our body is made up of different type of nerves, different different signaling systems are there. So there is always a signal given for everything from our brain. So for this, for hunger also, we get a signal from the brain. For satiation also, we get a signal from the brain. Okay, so you can see here that hunger, is actually triggered by motilin. That is again a chemical. So many chemicals are present. Okay, so this motilin is been triggered, and thus it reaches the brain, and brain again, it helps in providing the satiation reflex. Okay, so there is again a reflex which is given by brain. So it is a vice versa process. When you start eating, and after you and then you feel full and you stop eating. So there are different type of hormones, there are different type of neural circuits. So what are the hormones? These hormones are called ghrelin and leptin. Now people who have obesity, they have an imbalance of this ghrelin and leptin. Researchers have found that people who had an imbalance in their melatonin level and serotonin level, they had an imbalance in their ghrelin and leptin also. Now, ghrelin is actually associated with higher hunger. Leptin helps in satiation. People who have obesity, they have higher amount of ghrelin, so they eat very fast and they eat unlimited. They do not get satiated very soon, and thus the amount of calorie eaten by them is very high. So this again, you can see there is a correlation between sleep cycle and the hunger hormones and the satiation hormone. So sleep is so important. If sleep is disturbed, our whole eating pattern can be disturbed, and we will be more prone to all the different kinds of diseases. Just think of the different types of diseases a obese person will be prone to. There will be diabetes, there will be heart disease risk, there will be a higher blood pressure, just only because the person is not having a good sleep and is not able to maintain his eating pattern. Okay, I will go to the next slide. Now, if you see this, so this is a circadian rhythm. So what do you mean by circadian rhythm? Circadian rhythm is the typical way or the way of the nature. So we enjoy our life according to, or experience our life according to the movement of the sun. We are dependent on the sun. Sun provides energy to the plants. We eat the plants and we get the same energy. We conserve the energy, okay? Or we utilize the energy when we do activity. So according to the sun's movement, again our body's metabolism changes. So when we wake up in the morning, when sun has just come up, okay, or has risen, at that time we are boosted with energy. And when it is gone down, we again tend to sleep. We feel sleepy. We feel that our activity level is gone down. That is just because of the sun's energy. So the sun's energy, the sun's rays, they activate our brain cells. And according to that, our all hormones, our chemicals are activated. So our eating pattern should also be according to the circadian rhythm. So in the circadian cycle, the duration is 24 hours. And if we see, our eating pattern consists of mainly three meals, three major meals. So it should be typically synchronized with the light dark cycles. Okay, what is a light dark cycle? Light dark cycle is the daytime and the nighttime. So in the daytime, we from our childhood, we have been taught this line that you should be eating your breakfast like a king. You should be eating your dinner like a pauper. Okay, so why they say this? Why we are sticking to this sentence from the very beginning? It is just because of the sun's movement. As the sun rises, our body is activated, our hormones, our chemicals are activated, we are able to metabolize the food better. But as the sun goes down, that capacity of metabolizing, breaking down becomes very difficult. And thus it has been seen, people who eat a very heavy dinner, they tend to store the calories rather than use it. Now, the storing of these calories is not good for the body because the calories never get stored as muscles. They always get stored as fat. And that is why people who eat mostly in the heavy meal in the dinner time, they are having a higher BMI, or they are overweight, or they are obese. And thus the health risk also increases. Okay, now we can see that how behavior and environment can influence our sleep quality. So sleep is so important. Sleep helps us in regulating our hormones. Sleep helps us in metabolism of the body. Sleep helps us in making our immunity better. Sleep gives us rest. We get a good feeling when we sleep. We get energized when we sleep. Now there is an impact of food. Definitely, as I said, that if you are not eating well, again, your metabolism will be hampered. Your body is not going to act normally. There are also behavioral and some environmental influences on the sleep. For example, the meal timing, as I mentioned in the last slide. So it is going to impact the sleep quality. More heavy you eat, there will be lesser amount of protection to the body. There will be lesser amount of repair. Why? Because your whole body is trying to break down the amount of food you have taken in the night. Because all this food, the carbohydrate, the protein, the fat, everything has to be broken down. And it is a very big task for the body. So the body does not get the good amount of time to work on itself. It is not able to repair the damage which has been done throughout the day. For example, from the toxins which are present in the environment, from the food we eat, from the different microbes we are exposed to. Okay, so all these things will be important. Okay, and these things will be, has to be worked on during the night. But whenever that meal timing has been changed, then definitely if it is a very late dinner, all these impacts will be disturbed. Now coming to portion sizes. Now how portion sizes can affect sleep duration. So portion sizes, so again, if we go to the last slide, if we remember what we said, that eat breakfast like a king. King means like a heavy breakfast, like a good amount of breakfast. And you should be having your dinner like a pauper, like a very small amount. Why? Then your body has to work less. Your body can focus on making itself healthy, in making itself protected, in giving the maximum amount of immunity it can. Our body is very clever. Our body knows how to repair itself. Our body knows how to recover itself. Our body knows how to heal itself. So definitely, if we are little supportive, if we are following certain instructions and we follow our body is going to give us other support. Okay, so there is environment also. So in environment, many things are present. For example, the dietary intake. If the dietary intake is very high in the night, it disturbs the sleep. If there is too much of noise exposure, if there is too much of light exposure, so our brain cannot go to the relaxation phase in white light, okay, or the blue light. So it resembles the light structure of the sun. So our brain thinks that it is still daytime. The same thing happens when we see our gadgets. So the blue light which has been present in the computer screen, the electronic gadgets, for example, the mobile, smartphones, Androids, even the television, all these things are going to send the same message to the brain that the sun is still there. You cannot sleep. You cannot repair your body. So thus you can see that environment can be such a big, important factor in giving you a good sleep quality. Certain brain disorders, for example, Alzheimer's, neurodegenerative conditions, depression also changes the sleep quality. Chronic illnesses like type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, they change the sleep quality. While we age, we have a reduced amount of melatonin and we should be focusing on eating more melatonin foods. And thus, we should be improving our sleep quality, because when we age, the amount of melatonin reduces. There is a cognitive decline. There's a most chance of malnutrition, which can affect the sleep quality. Again, certain people, they work in different shifts. For example, we also say it as an occupational hazard. So some certain health workers, certain IT people, they have a shift work. So they, or some people when they are traveling, they have a jet lag. So all these can also impact the sleep quality. Okay. Now the importance, so you have understood the importance of sleep on health and well-being. So now we will be also talking about the different factors which destroys the sleep. So we know that food is a very important factor. In the food, what are the factors? So in food, certain people or some people, they enjoy coffee, right? So coffee has a substance called caffeine. When caffeine is been taken in the evening, what happens is it reduces the amount of melatonin secretion. Then whenever there is a higher amount of calorie intake just before the bedtime, at that time also there is a change in the melatonin. Lack of physical activity, stress, excessive consumption of alcohol, using electronic devices before bedtime, hormonal changes, smoking before bedtime, all these changes the sleep cycle. And when these changes, they also affect the cognitive functions, the emotional stability, immune system, heart health, metabolism of the body, the weight, the endocrine balance, the aging process, and mental health. Okay. So now, if you see how it impacts the sleep and cognitive function, you will be very surprised, because most of our cognitive performance is dependent on the sleep. If you do not sleep for more than 2 days, you cannot think. That is how our brain functions when it does not have adequate sleep. So if you are talking about sleep deprivation, there are two types of deprivation. It can be short-term deprivation and a long-term deprivation. Short-term deprivation can be due to some kind of emergency, some kind of ailment of our close ones. Long-term can be because of disturbed sleep quality on a very major level. And these have all impacted the different parts of our life. So when we have short-term deprivation, we have we have a higher difficulty in concentrating. We cannot concentrate on such something. We cannot think on something. We get deviated very soon. We get fluctuated. We get disturbed. There's a decline in the mood. We do not enjoy the things around us. We have an impaired memory. We are fatigued most of the times. When we have a long-term deprivation, there's a poor work performance. There is a cognitive decline because the habit of thinking goes away. The impaired memory takes the form of dementia, where most of the memories are blocked or they're not connected. So there is no correlation. So there are two things which are disturbed. One is cognitive performance, where the memory is barred, the learning process is barred. And the second is the impaired function, where the person cannot pay attention, the person cannot make any decision, everything is compromised, and the way of life is also compromised. Now, this is the cycle which you can correlate. This is a cycle which will be helping you in correlating how sleep disturbances and mental health is connected. Okay, so sleep disturbances, they are very much because of stress, worry. More you stress, more you worry, you tend to reduce the amount of good melatonin secretion, and thus your brain cells are much more stressed out. The nerves are very much highlighted. Okay, and if it continues, then it declines the mental health. When there is a declining in the mental health, by mental health I am actually not talking about any kind of disease. I'm talking about the reduction in the positive thinking or the positive balance, which helps us in making more amount of good hormones. These good hormones, for example, serotonin and dopamine, melatonin, all these are going to help in improving our immunity. Whereas when we are having higher amount of stress and worry, and there is a negativity, what happens is the amount of cortisol rates or the amount of stress hormones, they go very high. This impacts the immunity. This impacts the sleep again. So there is more amount of insomnia, there is more amount of poor sleep, there is feeling of fatigue which comes with it. There's a very high amount of difficulty in focusing, and thus it can also be related to worry. So because you are not able to focus, you are not able to think, you do not know why you are tired, again we get stress. I'm not able to perform. So again, these disturbances, if they are chronic, if there is a chronic sleep deprivation, it changes the emotional balance and disturbs the mood. And this can lead to a mental health problem. So now we have already spoken about the impact of sleep on immune modulation, but I just want you to know what is the scientific reason behind it. Okay, so now the sleep, how it affects the immunity. So if you can see this diagram, okay, so if there is a sleep loss, what happens is that the amount of antibody production or the amount of you can say proteins which help in killing all the bacteria's virus, they reduce. You can see a downside, they reduce. These are natural killer cells. So from the name, you can understand that these kill. So these kill all the bad things in the body. This kills all the viral components, virus, cancer causing cells, or cancer causing chemicals. These are inflammatory cytokines. Okay, what are inflammatory? From the name you can understand this is something related to inflammation. So these proteins, they increase the inflammation, and you can see there is a high sign here. Okay, so what happens when there is a high sign here? There is more amount of inflammation. More amount of inflammation, more is metabolic disorder. That means more is diabetes, more is heart disease, more is BP, more is everything, all the bad things. Now, along with that, there's a higher amount of viral infection, cancer, because again, natural killer cells are not doing their function, they are low. Along with that, you have a very poor antibody production. Because of that, what can happen? You'll be continuously prone to all kind of infections. So this is how the sleep can impact the immune function. Now, sleep has a major impact on cardiovascular disease. Sleep disturbances are these are independent risk factors for cardiovascular disease. How? Because you can see there are you can see the person, if the person is sleeping 6 to 8 hours or having optimum sleep, he is able to maintain all the lifestyle choices. For example, his diet, physical activity. Okay, he's not depending on too much of caffeine because he's getting a good amount of sleep. He does not have an emotional disbalance. But whenever the person is having a lesser amount of sleep, the person will be having a disbalance between all the neurohormones, and that will be leading to a disease, and they will be disrupting the physiological balance. The blood pressure will be high, and there will be more amount of heart damage. What happens when we have a high blood pressure? There is a more pressure in the blood, and the heart has to match the pace of the blood, and thus the heart's muscles, they become very weak, and thus we are prone to cardiovascular disease. Okay, now sleep and metabolic health. So these are the three problems which lead to metabolic health when there is a lower amount of sleep. One is glucose metabolism. Now, I'm not going to go into very intricate, scientific things. I'll just tell ki why glucose and how sleep is important. Now, we know that glucose is actually, something we get from carbohydrate, right? When we eat grains, when we eat sugar, when we eat potato, all these break down in our body to give us energy. That energy is glucose. Okay, so these glucose molecules, what happens when they do not go inside and they are not used? So when they're not used, they load up in our body, and thus we have a higher amount of blood sugar level, which is also marked as diabetes. Now, what happens is that sleep modulates some hormones, like most of the hormones actually. One of the hormone is insulin. I think everyone knows about insulin because now diabetes is so high. So, and insulin and diabetes is so much correlated. So insulin, it helps in maintaining the sugar level, and sleep helps in maintaining the insulin. So whenever there is a lower amount of sleep, there is a lower amount of insulin activity, and thus there is a higher amount of blood sugar level in the body because insulin is not able to work on the sugar level, and thus there will be a lot of problems. There will be higher diabetes, cardiovascular disease, a risk of cancer. All these kinds of problems can take place. If there is improper sleep, again the fats, again insulin is not only related to sugar balance, it is also related to fat balance, protein balance. So whenever insulin is low, the fats, what they do is they again get deposited, making the person more obese, and some stay as freely in the blood, and they roam around and they get deposited in the heart, which also makes us prone to cardiovascular disease. So there are certain psychological and emotional factors also. For example, stress, there is mood disorder, there is emotional eating, that is again related to the sleep. So I already have explained you how stress can be, it can create a vicious, it can be a vicious thing. It is like a cycle. So when we do not have good amount of sleep, we are more stressed. And when we are stressed, our mood is not well. We are not producing good amount of hormones to keep us happy. And what happens is we tend to go towards eating junk food, because science has found, because there are so many researches which have found that people who have higher amount of these stress hormones, they tend to eat all kind of sugary junk food, because these foods can instantly increase the amount of glucose load in the body and help the body get its happiness. The instant amount of energy makes the person happy, but it is for a very lesser amount of time, and the person gets addicted to having more amount of cakes, pastries, and all the junk food. Okay, so now sleep is also important for weight reduction. So lack of sleep can be, due to some changes in the hormones, as I have already told about ghrelin, or there can be higher amount of stress level, or there can be a problem in the brain also, or it can be due to some amount of lifestyle disorders. For example, having too much of coffee in the night, or choosing more amount of high sugar foods, or if the person is sleeping too much in the daytime, or if the person is watching Netflix and is actually exposed, or any kind of a, social media, and is exposed to the blue and white rays of the laptop or the screen, in those cases, and if the person is not exercising well, all these cases can lead to a weight increment. So again, sleep, when you sleep well, the amount of the hunger hormone goes down, and we are much more satiated. We do not take caffeine. We do not take too much of sugar. We have good rest, and we have the energy to exercise. And on all these relationships can reduce the amount of weight gain, and thus can make the body fit for activity. There is a very important relationship between sleep and psychiatric disorders also. So sleep disturbance are common in depression, affecting severity and recovery. Anxiety disorders often come along with disrupted sleep, and they worsen as the sleep worsens. So sleep irregularities are also changing the mood, and when it is a chronic thing, it can lead to bipolar disorder. Again, schizophrenia is a very complicated mental disease, and low sleep can lead to schizophrenia or all kinds of mental disorders. Now I'll be talking about the role of gut. So gut, everyone, like we are all talking about gut now. What is gut? So gut is our intestine. Okay. So in the intestine, we have small microbes or bacteria. So what these bacteria do is they help in making our body better. How do they make our body better? They reduce the inflammation in the body. They help us in maintaining the amount of sugar balance, fat balance, protein balance, and they improve our metabolism also. Now, why is gut and sleep related? Now, if you see the sleeping pattern, people who sleep less, they have a very bad gut bacteria. And when there is a low gut bacteria, there is a lower amount of immunity, there is a higher amount of stress hormone, and there is a lot of gastrointestinal problems. So healthy sleep impacts the intestines to produce good bacteria, which will be helping in giving the body its optimum health, and also it will be helping the brain to recover and to produce the right amount of hormones which are needed for maximizing the sleep or optimizing the sleep and optimizing the health. Okay, so now we'll come to the how sleep can be disorders can work on the nutrition, or how it can reduce the nutrition in the body. So whenever there is insomnia, or whenever there is lower amount of sleep, it will be altering the dietary pattern, okay, and it will be reducing the metabolism. That means it will be reducing the breakdown. So whenever there is a reduction in the breakdown, then the body will not get the amount of nutrient it should, and we will be landing up in deficiency. When we will be landing up in deficiency, we tend to eat more, and thus we reach to a space which is called obesity. Okay, so they have found that there are three criteria. So first is insomnia, then there is apnea, there is a deficiency of oxygen, then there is restless legs. So restless legs is again a kind of a symptom when people have a higher amount of obesity risk, or there is a higher amount of energy balance in the body which is not being used up, making the person hyper. Now, what is chrononutrition? So what is chrononutrition? Now, if you are going to break your clock into different aspects. So for example, if you break your time, the whole day's time, and you are maintaining your lifestyle according to it, and you are focusing mostly on meal timing, or you are focusing on the eating pattern, then you can manipulate your health. So first thing very important for maintaining a good chrononutrition, that is timely nutrition. Chrono is actually time. Okay, so you have to understand the meal timing. So meal timing should be proper. That means you should be having a certain set meal timing. It's not that one day I will be eating around 8 o'clock, next in the morning, and next day I will be fasting, or next day I'll skip the breakfast and I'll directly have lunch. Now that disrupts your whole cycle again. So irregular patterns, again, one day your sugar levels will be low because you have eaten a very late breakfast. One day your sugar levels will be higher than the other timing. So if the person who takes a regular breakfast at a fixed time maintains a better sugar level, and thus it helps in maintaining a better metabolism. So sleeping pattern, physical activity, genetic factors, age, environmental factors, diet composition, all this helps in maintaining the metabolism of the body. It helps in maintaining the meal time, and also it helps in maintaining the circadian clock, not your clock, but the world clock, which is dependent on the sun and its rays. So now we have already understood what factors are not letting us sleep, and why sleep is not sleep is not happening. And now if sleep is not happening, what are the problems which are happening in our body, and what we can be prone to. Now how can we correct this? So there are three important food nutrient that is going to help in maintaining the amount of sleep. Number one is tryptophan. How does tryptophan help you? Tryptophan helps in supporting the sleep mechanism. If you can go to the first slide where I was talking about the serotonin and the melatonin balance. Tryptophan is important for the sleep hormone. Tryptophan is the ingredient for the sleep hormone. So tryptophan is found in the fruits and vegetables like sweet potato, potato with skin on, carrots, avocado, banana, prunes, other plant foods like wheat, oats, but all these are whole grains, not the refined ones. Pistachios, sunflower seeds, chickpeas, lentils, in non-vegetarian foods like meat, chicken, fish, all the kinds of lean meats. The second food is magnesium. Magnesium is a very important mineral. It is actually the cofactor for your sleep. So it has recently become a popular supplement for people who struggle with sleep. So these foods are very important. So nuts. So if you have at least one serving of nuts, you get 307 milligrams of magnesium. If you take whole grains, 84 milligrams of magnesium. If you're taking soy products, again, one serving will give you 74 milligrams. If you take dairy, then one dairy serving will be giving you 27 milligrams. If you take green leafy vegetables, one serving will be giving you 24 milligrams again. And it is very important for the sleep cycle. Now coming to melatonin. So melatonin is the hormone which helps us in, or the neurochemical which helps us in getting sleep. So there are certain foods which support this secretion. So green tea, chamomile tea, whole grains like oats, corn, rice, and barley, nuts like walnuts, almonds, again lean meats, eggs, fish, bell peppers, fruits, different type of seeds, coffee beans, extra virgin olive oil. They are all good supporters of melatonin. They help in producing melatonin, and melatonin promotes better sleep quality. Okay, so again, only eating good diet, a balanced diet is not enough. Doing good amount of exercise, making oneself physically active, maintaining your biological clock according to the circadian rhythm, that is according, or the your mechanical clock, your biological clock, and your and the circadian clock, that is the sun's movement, is very important. Okay, and create a very good sleeping environment. Turn off all electronics an hour before bed. Avoid large fatty meals prior to sleep. Reduce the amount of stress. Exercise every day. Limit the caffeine. Establish a nighttime routine. All these are very important for the sleep hygiene. So we have to have good schedules which are consistent, which will be helping us in making it a habit to get a sleep wake time. We should also be very much aware of the bedroom conditions for the optimization of the sleep. We should be avoiding large, loud noises or very vibrant light that can trigger a change in the sleeping pattern. We should be also thinking about the relaxation techniques. For example, listening to a soothing music, and also not taking any kind of tension or be anxious just before sleep. There are certain exercises that help us in improving the sleep. So there is aerobic resistance training, there is high intensity training, light resistance or aerobic training, and there are different types of times when you should be doing this. So in the morning, you should be doing aerobic exercise, because aerobic exercise is going to take a higher amount of, they demand a high amount of oxygen. Then high intensity exercises, they should be done in the afternoon, and light exercises in the evening. So by this, I end my presentation. So this is my last slide where you can see a correlation between food, sleep, and health. So all these together is going to maintain the health. Proper health, if I define it, it is not limited to physical health, physical, mental, spiritual, all these things. When it is balanced, we say that the person is having an optimum health. Thank you so much.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, good. Geeta, I would like to share my screen and
Yes,
show
sir.
one
Sure.
list.
You can do that. I made you co-host. Yes, thank you.
Can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Yes.
Okay. So with that very deep scientific and practical presentation by Professor Ghosh, what will you do today? That is always we are going to talk about. So here is the suggestion that probably a good practice for many of you and well known, supported by the science that Professor Ghosh has presented. So in the evening, as she said, try to avoid coffee, tea. If at all you have to do it as early as you can. Have a light meal. But if you have the habit of drinking coffee, tea, or wine, or some alcohol, let's have a very practical plan. In the evening, as early as you can, have your drink, tea, coffee, wine, alcohol, with almond, nuts, and cheese. Then after some gap, if you can avoid full dinner, that's very good. But if you cannot avoid dinner, eat only half amount of other food items and then choose any of these 6 fruits: bananas, grapes, kiwi, gooseberry, pineapple, and tart cherries. Of all these, tart cherries and bananas are very important because bananas give you a lot of magnesium that's required, potassium to relax your muscles, and tart cherries will give good boost to the melatonin. After an hour's gap, have one of these drinks before bedtime: milk or teas, not the regular tea, but teas made up of such things as chamomile or peppermint or some leaves that are known to induce sleep. So this is something that I have been practicing on and off, not so systematically, but with this presentation, I will try to stick to this plan myself, and I suggest that you try, adapt, and see what your results are and keep us reporting. From now on, whenever you do these kind of things, I want you to tell what works for you, what doesn't work for you. Each individual is different, so the suggestions made here are not for every single one of you, but for majority of you. Thank you.
Sir, I want to say something. So now, as you said about coffee, so now scientists and researchers, they are telling no to coffee because it has been seen that caffeine can also spike the blood sugar level.
Yes.
So mostly people who are diabetics, they should not be, or have a insulin resistance, they should not be taking coffee in their diet. We can always choose to tea, because tea, it is loaded with different kinds of anthocyanins. It has good amount of tannin, and it helps in restoring our balance, like balance of the different chemicals. It has good amount of polyphenols that can protect our cell from cancer. And there are so many health benefits, there are so many antioxidants. So now the scientists, they are telling that you should be easternizing it rather than
Yes.
westernizing it.
No. The suggestions that I'm making are, they should be so close to that. Someone
Yes.
who is habituated to do these things, our job is to try to steer them towards a practical way of life.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, sir.
It's thank you, Anand and Srinivas. It's an awesome presentation. Definitely, good sleep helps in so many things, as you mentioned. Thank you so much for coming to India Home, and definitely we'll get you back again. Right, Dr. Rao?
Yes, we have certainly the deep science that she is telling
Uh-huh.
has a very important reason why, even though I saw all her slides before, I did not ask her to cut down any science, because whenever someone is giving an advice, you should get the confidence that it is given based on a very good study. There are so many contradictory things, whether it is coffee, whether it is this food or that food, diabetes. These confusions are existing because to do a clinical trials for your medicine, whatever medicine that you are taking, companies are spending billions of dollars to understand. But no one is spending that much money, not even millions, to understand who should take banana, when should we take banana, and how much bananas amount, quantity we should eat. There was no such study. But for every single medicine that you are taking, enormous studies are made. But fortunately, we are working on using AI, collect information to make such conclusions. I hope it will happen in the next 2 to 3 years by various groups, not only by us, and you will have good answers. But for now, these are age-old, traditionally understood, supported by the current science to some extent. Experiment, enjoy.
Awesome job you're doing, Dr. Rao. Our members wait for this session every week. When we post the flyer, they eagerly wait for these sessions. Thank you so much, both of you again. I'll end this session. Thanks.